Today we're going to talk about getting an IP address from from PowerShell. So the old school way to do IP addressing was back in the command line. You could go ifconfig, and there would be your IP address. You could also add a /all. That was kind of like the advanced knowing, which is really not that advanced, but it'd give you a little more info. You can see now you get all the different IP addresses. And some extra information like DHCP server, DNS server, blah blah blah. So in PowerShell, this isn't the way to do it. This is kind of the old, for lack, old command line or kind of almost DOSy way. So let's clear the screen, and the command we want to use is get net IP address. And so when we run that, you can see we get all the different IP addresses. Now, of course, there's a lot of information here. This is the actual address, so you can see we've got the address, the alias, so if you were looking for something on Wi-Fi or if it was Ethernet, you could do that. And then DHCP, there's a lot of good things in here, and then the address family, right? So whether it's IPv4 or IPv6. So we could run that same command and we can just say select IP address. So let's start with that. So we'll copy that. And it's always select object, just so you know. If you're putting this into a script, you definitely want to put the object in there. Now that puts us down to several different IP addresses, IPv6 linkbacks, and just other IPv6 addresses, and then a couple of IPv4 loopback on that as well. But what we really want is this address. So going back to getNet IP, we can kind of filter this down a couple of different ways. So let's get net IP dash, let's say address family. Let's start with that, address family, and we'll say IPv4, right? So let's see what we get after that. And we'll do a select. I'm just going to do the short version, and we're just going to say IP address. So this gets us closer, right? So now we don't have all that IPv6 stuff. So what we really need to do is add a where's object here. So let's get rid of this. We'll say where dash object. We'll say IP address. I don't know if it'll, nope. Oh, it does, cool. IP address dash like. So like is one of the operators. And I'm just going to say 192. And in an enterprise environment, you'll probably have like a 10 or some sort of private IP space. So when we hit enter here, we can see now we're down to just the one IP address. This is what we're trying to filter down to. So if we say select, and then we can just say IP address, we can do it that way, or if we just wanted, we can do it that way, or we can do it, if we were, say, putting this into a variable, I would probably do it this way, dot IP address, and that just gives you the IP. So it's just different ways of outputting the data, but this is how I would do it, and then, yeah, you could easily you could say, put a variable in that, j equals, so now you could just say J, and that's your IP address. So anyways, that's how I get an IP address in PowerShell for a local machine. Thanks for watching.